Hey everyone, welcome to Verlita's Everything in Between podcast. I am the show creator and your host, Verlita Odom. I am very thankful that you are joining me here again. I know there's been a wait since I last recorded, so I hope all has been well with each of you since we were together last. Today's show is going to be about domestic violence and domestic violence awareness. Now, if you have been with me since I started the podcast a year ago, you already know that I do have experience working with victims of domestic violence, mostly women and children. So it is definitely a subject that I have experience dealing with. I really wanted to bring something to you guys that would help. I know just in researching for today's show, I was helped. And of course, pulling on any past experiences, whether it be personal or professional, definitely helps. October is a domestic violence awareness month, but domestic violence is a subject that can be talked about and is happening every day, every week, every month, every year. So it's not like we have to wait until October to discuss the subject. I think it's something that we can talk about at any point in time, and we should, especially if it's going to help someone that we know and love. So I hope that the information that I discuss today is helpful to you, and if it's not something that affects you directly, then maybe you have someone you know or love that you can share the link with. Hopefully it'll be something that helps them. It's a subject that I want to make sure I do justice, so it's going to take more than just one episode. So I will likely be recording part 2 to this as well. Thank you so much for sticking with me during the wait, and I hope that again it was worth it for you guys by bringing this information to you today. I will see you guys after the break. So to begin with, I just want to make you guys aware that all of the information that I'm going to be discussing today, I have pulled directly from the National Domestic Violence Hotline website. And you can find that website and all of this information at www.thehotline.org. Okay. So you are able to go on your own and research this. Look up these statistics and all of the information that I'm going to present to you today. So if you can't make it to the second episode, hopefully you'll be able to just go to that website and you will kind of be ahead of the game and you will get the information for yourself. Okay. Basically, domestic violence is relationship abuse. A relationship abuse is a pattern of behaviors used to gain or maintain power and control over a partner. And of course, that can manifest in a number of ways, and it's usually more than one form of abuse or abusive behavior that occurs within an abusive relationship. What forms of abuse am I talking about? Physical abuse. If you or someone you know is in a relationship, an intimate relationship with someone, and you are experiencing a partner who forbids you or prevents you from eating or sleeping, they use weapons against you to include firearms, knives, bats, or mace. They pull your hair, punch you, slap you, kick you, bite you, choke you, even try to smother you. They prevent you from contacting emergency services, including medical attention or law enforcement. They harm your children or your pets. They drive recklessly or dangerously with you in the car or abandon you at unfamiliar places. Those are all forms of physical abuse. If they throw objects at you, if they try to trap you inside your home or prevent you from leaving, if they prevent you from taking prescribed medications or deny you necessary medical treatment, that is a form of domestic violence. Emotional or verbal abuse within a relationship. You may be in an emotionally or verbally abusive relationship if your partner attempts to exert control by calling you names, insulting you, or constantly criticizing you. acting jealous or possessive or refusing to trust you, isolating you from family, friends, or other people in your life, monitoring your activities with or without your knowledge, including demanding to know where you go, who you contact, how you spend your time, attempting to control what you wear, including clothes, makeup, or hairstyles, humiliating you in any way, especially in front of others, gaslighting, and that's a term we a lot of us have heard here recently, just with some things that have been in the public with these celebrity relationships, gaslighting you by pretending not to understand or refusing to listen to you, questioning your recollection of facts, events, or sources, trivializing your needs or your feelings, or denying previous statements or promises, threatening you or your children, your family, or your pets with or without a weapon, damaging your objects, including throwing objects, punching walls, kicking doors in, etc., blaming you for their abusive behavior, accusing you of cheating or cheating themselves and blaming you for their actions, cheating on you to intentionally hurt you, telling you that you're lucky to be with them or that you'll never find someone better. Those are forms of emotional and verbal abuse. What are other types of abuse in domestic partnerships or relationships? There can be sexual abuse in a relationship. Even if you are in a relationship, a domestic relationship with someone, you can still be sexually abused within that relationship. So if they force you to dress in a sexual way that you're uncomfortable with, if they insult you in sexual ways and call you explicit names, force you or manipulate you into having sex or performing sexual acts, especially when you're sick, tired, or physically injured from their abuse, choke you or restrain you during sex without your consent. They hold you down during sex without your consent, hurt you with weapons or objects during sex, ignore your feelings regarding sex, force you to watch or make pornography, involve other people in your sexual activities against your will, intentionally give you or attempt to give you a sexually transmitted infection. Those are all forms of sexual abuse, even within a relationship, right? You can be raped and sexually harmed within a relationship. Other forms of domestic abuse is sexual coercion, reproductive coercion, financial abuse, where they prevent you from viewing or accessing bank accounts, where they're stealing money from you, your family, or your friends. They're living in your home but refusing to work or contribute to the household, forcing you to provide them with your tax returns or confiscating joint tax returns, refusing to provide money for necessary or shared expenses like food, clothing, transportation, medical care, or medicine, depositing your paycheck into an account you can't access, providing an allowance, or closely monitoring how you spend it, okay, including demanding receipts for purchases. These are all forms of financial abuse. Stalking, that's very common. Leaving you unwanted items, gifts, or flowers. Using social media or technology to track your activities, even if it's cyber stalking or digital. That is a form of abuse. Manipulating people to investigate your life, including using someone else's social media account to look at your profile or befriending your friends in order to get information about you. That happens, you guys. That happens a lot. And I think in a lot of ways, people think that that's normal and it's becomes accepting, especially in the age of social media where, social media has made everyone accessible. You don't even have to know a person to, direct message them. That can be dangerous, especially to someone who is abusive. I just touched on some of the forms of domestic abuse. Again, I gave you guys the link so you can go and you can actually research and read a little bit more about the different forms of abuse for yourself. But I definitely want you to be aware of some of the forms of abuse that are there and that you may be experiencing and or a friend or family member may be experiencing. Hopefully that has helped. If you are in immediate danger, dial 911. If you are the victim of domestic violence and you would like to speak with someone about your situation, you may call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-SAFE. That's 1-800-799-7233. Or you may text the word START, START, to 88788. Okay, so according to the National Domestic Violence Hotline, these are the warning signs of abuse. Okay, it says know what to look for. So, of course, and I'm sure if you've ever been in a abusive relationship or witnessed an abusive relationship, I think you're going to definitely identify and relate to what's being said here. Okay. So basically, it says that at the start of any new relationship, it's always difficult to tell whether or not it's going to be abusive, right? The person is usually very charming, charismatic. And so, they put on this facade in the beginning, and, really draw you in. But in fact, many abusive people appear like ideal partners in the early stages of a relationship. They don't The domestic violence warning signs don't always appear overnight, and it may emerge and intensify as the relationship grows. But every relationship is different, we all know that. And domestic violence doesn't look the same, in every relationship. But one feature shared by most abusive relationships is that the abusive partner tries to establish or gain power and control through many different methods at different moments. The hotline actually lists some things that they say if even one or two of these behaviors in a relationship are present, these are red flags. Okay. If you're in a relationship with someone who tells you often, or tells you, that you're telling you that you never do anything right. If they show extreme jealousy of your friends or time that you spend away from them, if they are preventing or discouraging you from spending time with your friends or your family members, red flag. Okay. Insulting or shaming you in front of other people, red flag. Insulting your parents or threatening to harm or take away your children or their pets or your pets, red flags. Intimidating you through threatening looks and actions, destroying your belongings or your home, all red flags, you guys. Preventing you from making your own decisions, including about working or attending school. Okay. Remember, they're trying to gain power and control over you. So anything that is a means to your freedom, or you having a way without them, they're going to try to cut off or stop. So they're gonna threaten your parents. They're going to want you to separate from your friends, because guess what? Those people may be able to give you information that will help you. Those people might see the signs that you don't see. Those people may help you get out of the relationship. So let me cut those relationships off now. I only want you to have focus on me. I want to control you. I don't want anyone else to have access to you, right? That is the mindset of abusers. Um, Another huge red flag: controlling finances in the household without discussing it with you, including taking your money and refusing to provide money. Now, of course, these red flags go along with the various types of abuse that I just discussed. But again, it bears repeating. If again the hotline says if even one or two of these things are present, these are red flags. You are in or abuse may be present. It's not a absolute, but I mean, If you're in a relationship with someone that doesn't want you around anybody else, who's taking your money, who's threatening you, who's threatening your parents, who's threatening your kids or your pets, who's destroying or damaging your house and your possessions, doesn't want you to work, yeah, I would say you're in an abusive relationship. Okay, that's without doubt. Okay, when we come back, we're going to discuss some statistics that will probably shock you. So, according to the National Domestic Violence Hotline, an average of 24 people per minute are victims of rape, physical violence, or stalking by an intimate partner. Okay. Nearly 3 in 10 women, 29%, and 1 in 10 men, 10%, in the United States have experienced rape, physical violence, and or stalking by a partner, and reported it having a related impact on their functioning. Intimate partner violence alone affects more than 12 million people every year. Almost half of all women and men in the United States have experienced psychological aggression by an intimate partner in their lifetime. So that's 48.4% and 48.8% respectively. Women ages 18 to 24 and 25 to 34 generally experience the highest rates of intimate partner violence. 81% of women who experience rape, stalking, or physical violence from an intimate partner reported significant impacts, whether it be short term or long term, like injuries or symptoms of PTSD, post traumatic stress disorder. Okay. Definitely don't want to, leave out the men who are victims of domestic violence, because 35% of men reported the same significant impacts from experience of rape, stalking, or physical violence from an intimate partner. For male victims, 52.4% reported being raped by an acquaintance. 15.1% reported being raped by a stranger. Men who were primarily stalked by partners or acquaintances. Okay, so by partners, 41.4%, by acquaintances, 40%. Let's discuss the children. Children witnessed violence in nearly 1 in 4 intimate partner violence cases filed in state courts. That's about 22%. Little children who are seeing violence between their parent or parents. 40% of child abuse victims also report experiencing domestic violence. So that goes back to this. If there's domestic violence in the home, rarely is that abuser limiting the abuse to that one victim, to that other adult. If there are children in the home, it's highly likely and very likely that the children are being victimized, not just emotionally, but likely physically as well. One study found that children exposed to violence in the home were 15 times more likely to be physically and or sexually assaulted than the national average. Think about that. 15 times more likely to be physically and or sexually assaulted than the national average. According to the U.S. Advisory Board on Child Abuse and Neglect, domestic violence may be the single major precursor to fatalities from child abuse and neglect in the United States. That's how big of an impact domestic violence has in the home. Not just on the adult victim, but on the children. They are victims as well. I'll repeat that. According to the U.S. Advisory Board on Child Abuse and Neglect, domestic violence may be the single major precursor to fatalities from child abuse and neglect in the United States. These are just, like I said, just the statistics are just overwhelming. That is why I felt the need to do an episode about domestic violence, because it is far more prevalent than we want to even think or admit. The chances of you knowing someone, family or friend who is presently or has survived domestic violence is very high and very likely. And so it's very important that we be able to recognize those signs when we have family members or friends or even coworkers who are around us and just don't seem to be themselves. Whether they're seeming to be depressed, they're showing up with bruises, fearful of spending time with family members or friends, always seeming to have to leave because even if they've only spent a few moments with you, it's been too long. They have to get back home. um you know the children, you have to watch for signs with the children as well. Those signs can be them acting out some of the physical abuse and violence they've witnessed, even sexual abuse and violence that they've witnessed. Fearful of adults, feeling like they need to be the protector of the parent who's being abused. There's such a great impact in the home on the children and family members of the individual who is the victim of the domestic violence. So I didn't want to overload you guys with all of the information, but the facts speak for themselves, and I just really thought that the information needed to be discussed. So I will be doing a part 2 to this episode because there's more information I'd like to go into. For example, we will be discussing a little bit in further detail about some of the tactics that the abuser uses, and we'll also discuss the victim of the abuse, why they choose to stay, and if you have someone or know someone who chooses to stay, how can you still show and be supportive of that person? I know it seems black and white to many of us, hey, the abuser is violent towards you, you need to leave. But for many of the victims of abuse, they don't believe that they can leave, whether it be for fear or financial reasons. So if you know someone who is in a situation like this and has not yet made the decision to leave, how do you show support and be supportive of those individuals? I definitely want to discuss those topics on the next episode. So thanks for joining me, you guys. Until then, be well, take care of yourselves, take care of each other.